I'm from a team of researchers that work on a range of projects, so I'm more like a researcher, so like a scientist. So this is a good example of a targeted project that Peter, 2 presentations ago, was talking about. So this is a concrete example of how academia and industry can come together, how they can take advantage of the funding mechanisms that, in this case, SFI provides. In this particular case, we got together with some researchers from Waterford IT. It's as I said, it's a co-funded project between IBM and SFI, and we got to work with some master students like Mohit and John, who are mentored by Dr. Alan Davey there. So the presentation today is called Smart Herd, so improving welfare of farm animals. So it has to do with one particular disease that we were looking at, so which is lameness. So lameness is basically an abnormality which causes the cows to have mobility issues. We are looking at dairy cows, basically. So we are interested in the cows that have a long life and they produce milk. Obviously, that's a problem that occurs when the cows are diagnosed with lameness. Is that the cost of treating the lameness is taking a big toll on the farmers, especially if the farm is quite small. I need to remind you that the costs, sorry, the gains that are made from milk are very small. It's a few tens of cents per liter. So any cost that the farmer can save is very important. So in our case, lameness could come in various forms. We looked at the main 3 types. So on average, the cost that is incurred in treating the lameness is around 275 euros per incidence. The incidence is quite high. The incidence ratio is quite high. So we're going to see what happens if we can detect this problem earlier. Then it will be done by visual inspecting the cows. So one of the biggest problems is that when cows are diagnosed with lameness, the farmer has to throw the milk away because they have to be treated with antibiotics. So that's the biggest loss that the farm can have. Of course, there is the time that you have to pay the veterinary for, and then other indirect costs like increased culling and poor fertility. Now, so this is the context we are looking at. As I said, lameness could be diagnosed by a simple visual inspection. So just looking at each individual cow and the way the cow moves, we can diagnose the cow with lameness, and it's quite visible at some point. And unless it's treated, the cow feels really bad. And this is feasible. The visual inspection is feasible to think of if the farm is small, but the moment the farm starts to grow, it's really hard to inspect each individual cow and keep a tab on them and then try to detect lameness much earlier, before it's clearly visible, because there are 3 stages of lameness. Is the first stage, if you detect lameness in cows, you can treat it. There's the middle stage. If lameness occurs and you're in the middle stage, you can't treat it yet. You have to leave it to reach the last stage, in which again antibiotics can be applied. But the costs are higher in the last stage, and also the duration of healing is longer. So what we did in this project, so as I said, we got some money for buying equipment and monitoring the mobility of cows. So we went through a lot of processes of figuring out which is the best way of monitoring the mobility of cows. We went through even ideas of having cameras installed at the farm's premises, and trying to recognize each individual cow and track it as it moves, maybe give it a score and see whether it starts moving in a different pattern, then it means it could be a lameness incident, and we notify the farmer. However, that's quite unfeasible. The farm is quite big. They get to roam. You know, Ireland is a very green country. It's a lot of grass. The space is huge, so it's very hard to deploy this system and that. So the end system that we actually ended up using was buying off-the-shelf sensors that are similar to fitness trainers for people, but this is fitness trainers for cows. So they measure. It's an accelerometer-based sensor. So they measure the acceleration on 3 directions, which basically, if you look and crunch a bit the numbers there, you get to count the steps the cow is making, but you can also get more insights, like if it's sitting down, if it's grazing, and things like this, which is the precursor data that we need to look at in terms of putting a score on the mobility of a particular cow. So we are working actually with a farm in County Waterford. They have 150 dairy cows, so it's quite a well-sized number for us, because we could actually put a sensor in each individual cow. The sensors themselves are not very expensive, so again, maybe through this project I'm raising awareness of how cheap it is nowadays to put sensors and use concepts like the IoT concept to collect data from sources that you wouldn't have previously imagined, like in this case, cow mobility. The sensors are equipped with low power wireless transmission, so you don't need to go and read like with a card reader or anything. The sensor itself, once it's in the range of this antenna, which covers quite a large area, in our case I think it's about a few kilometers, so quite a decent farm. The sensors upload the raw data onto those through those antenna to the farm, and we see here that our student who deployed the sensors. In terms of a system overview, how everything is connected. So the sensors themselves are working in relatively low frequency, so the range could be higher. The transceiver, which sits somewhere around the farm, because the cows roam much further than we anticipated from the actual farm. So we have a transceiver, so it's a way of getting the data and then push it further to our actual receiver, which is sitting on the farm premises. When the analytics are run, we also developed a platform to feed back the data and feed back the results to the farmer, and the farmer also has an opportunity to interact with the data and maybe put some annotations that we need for our training phase. More on the cloud side, we're using the IBM cloud, where we have this IoT platform. So IoT, if you like, I guess more or less everybody is familiar with what IoT is. But in this case is a scalable platform that allows connections from millions of sensors, and the events could be they are processed instantaneously. However, you still need to code some logic and some intelligence to read all those incoming events. In our case, readings from cow mobility into some applications. Of course, you first go through a stage of storing and then accessing the data with applications. Before I go into some more details in here, we were also looking at external sources of data, such as weather, because of course Ireland is, as you know, quite a rainy country, and seasons, although they are quite mild across the years, daylight and weather might have an impact on the cow's mobility. So we cannot have one model that will work throughout the year. We need to factor in the weather data and the daylight and so on. So in the cloud, we have an opportunity to hook up third-party data and other information that is relevant for our learning process. Now, all the all the researchy part is happening in this block. So we collect all the data. Of course, we need, in the first phase, we needed to annotate it because the data without annotation is it's worthless. For that reason, we have employed a veterinary consultant that goes on the farm's premises and actually takes a look at each individual cow once a week. But she takes a look at each individual cow and gives a locomotion scoring, so we know exactly from an expert whether a cow is lame or not. Now, having learned that, we let the machine crunch the numbers, learn what a normal behavior is, learn what a lame behavior is, and then let the machine run forward with the new data and tell us if a cow is lame or not. Now, the only benefit of doing this thing is if we can beat the farmer at figuring out whether a cow is lame or not. So the farmer obviously at some point can see that the cow is lame, but can we tell the farmer in advance, by days, weeks if possible, that a particular cow is showing signs of lameness? So that would be an early detection that we're looking at. And I'm going to jump a bit and kind of saying what the results are, is that we can beat the farmer at figuring this out. And even before any visual sign is available, we, having trained our machine learning algorithms, we can figure out that there are already signs showing that a cow is lame. Now, just some terminology about data science and machine learning. There are false positives and false negatives. A false positive would be saying a cow is lame when the cow is not actually lame, but there's not a big problem, because imagine it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to go and double check on the cow than saying, oh, the algorithm was tweaked only to be 100% sure, and then we lost a few instances where the cow was actually lame, so we don't really want to do that. And we also developed a web page through which data can be visualized, and the farmer can go and interact with the data. Just an example, as you would imagine, it's a lot of raw data, in our case, we have a really long table, but looking at the literature, we figured out that there are at least three measurements that we take that are the effects of lameness. So if lameness occurs, the step count, lying time, and swaps per hour that we measure will show a correlation with lameness. So now the only thing needed, obviously, is to find the mathematical formula linking this and finding the correlation, solving the correlation problem with lameness. So we are now collecting data since July last year. So we got quite a good amount of data. We're still looking to having a full cycle, a full yearly cycle to filter out the influences of the seasons and other, like calving is only once per year, and then that has a different influence on our scoring. However, in terms of lying activity, step activity, and swaps activity, if you were to look at the raw data, you would also, by just looking here on top, you would see that there's an abnormality. The cows are lying down. This is one particular cow is lying down more than it used to be in the past. But that's also what the farmer would see. The problem is, could we figure this out much earlier than when the spike appears? So what we also realize is that not cows are all the same. So if we consider every cow, all the cows being following the same trend, the same model, then we figured we would be wrong. So we had to look at which categories the cows would fit in. So in our case, we figured there are some active cows, which correlates with the young cows. So they move more, and when they are lame, they look like a normal cow, or they look like an old cow when they're lame. So it's very hard to tell when that particular cow is lame or not, unless we apply a different model to it. So after doing this grouping, and also the classification needs to be done periodically, because as cows age or seasons change, you need to know again which are which. We crunch the numbers, and we basically, because the farmer is an active person is going a lot on the farm, we figure we need a mobile application to let the farmer know and also allow the farmer to interact with the data, and maybe when we miss some lameness incidents, the farmer has the ability to flag it, to re-annotate the data for us. And in terms of results, we were able to, here with red is a period when the cow was lame. So in reality, we were able to tell a cow was becoming lame, like visibly lame, 4 days in advance before the farmer could actually spot. So the farmer in our case would be the expert as well. This is a very good result, because it will catch the moment, it will catch the first phase, the first treatable phase of a cow, and that will have a lot of benefits in terms of reducing the cost on the farm. So on the impact, as I said, we have a timely lame notification. Also, we can detect other use cases like heat detection, so the farmer would know all these events that it's happening in the herd. Most importantly for the farmer is the cost reduction. It also reduced the time spent manually to actually check the herd for various events. So now, and actually we envisage in the future for this system to run autonomously, so no more annotation is needed. The farmer would be kind of the end user, the receiver of feedback. He's not giving feedback in the loop as well. We estimate that the savings we have made on the farms so far is about 60% on what the farmer would have spent on treating the lameness incidents. And something that I'm not having here on the slide is that if we treat cows earlier for lameness, then we put them back into milk production much earlier. So then we need less numbers of cows producing milk to meet the market demand. And having less cows is very good, because cows emit methane, and that's a big problem now, and the EU tries to address it. So this would actually have a big impact on reducing the amount of methane the cows here on Ireland would produce. So with this, I conclude my talk, and I'm around here for follow-up talks if you